Right, so let's get into our panel discussion. Tonight, we're asking you, what do you make of the president's response to Mkhwanazi's allegations? Do we need another inquiry? Send us your views on WhatsApp. That number is 072-110-5584. Or give us a call, 010-594-6010. We get analysis now from different voices. We're joined by social commentator, Mr. Donovan Williams, devoted citizen movement founder, Reverend Chris Matebula, as well as governance expert, Professor Alex Fanden here. For gentlemen, a good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, so much anticipation, right? Until we got to that address by the president yesterday, just after 7:30. Quite a short presentation. Donovan, I'll let you start first. Did it live up to your expectations with your list of wants and needs for that to address what was missing?
Look, I don't know if I had expectations, but I think we all knew what the president was going to say. It was already rumbling before that. We have commission fatigue, right? If there's such a thing. We have commission fatigue as South Africans, but I think we all expected the president to announce a commission of inquiry because those allegations needed to be investigated and tested. And I think we also expected and we hoped, we weren't sure if he was going to, but I think most of us hoped that he would ask Minister Mchunu to go on leave, be suspended, whatever the law allowed, so as to make certain that these matters are investigated properly. And I think those expectations were met. But I think more than that, we're beginning to understand or grudgingly accept that it's easier to convict in the court of public opinion than in the actual court. And we all, the overwhelming majority of our institutions seem to be polluted in one way or the other, and it is quite upsetting. But I think what we would expect a little bit more from the president is to be a little bit more free and liberated. He can't stand again as a president. He won't stand again in his political party. They can't remove him, in real terms. We have had that before, but I don't think they would. I think he needs to really lead a lot more freer than he has. Because the renewal, which he came in on a renewal mandate, not just in the ANC, if we note that was South African society standing up for him. So he needs to be a lot more stronger, but we also understand that doesn't mean you can just convict anybody and so forth.
Let me interject, because I want you to finish that thought.
Yeah.
For him to be a little bit stronger, more liberated, as you will, what would that look like?
It would look like that he chooses people not to satisfy either factions within the ruling party or governing party or the ANC, factions within society for that matter, be it business, whichever, but he chooses the best persons for the position to take us forward. He equates, accountability is really what we are asking for. And he's able to show that fear no favor, if you do something wrong, I remove you when it's within my sphere and that's what we're looking for. And you don't get that sense with the president. And so yes, people would want heads to roll, but it's been seen. I mean, it's difficult. You can have a commission, they can make recommendations, but to build a legal case, especially when the institutions, if we look at the allegations raised by General Mkhwanazi or whichever, and there's even allegations on his allegations. There's allegations on the political task team in case they're not being as good as they claim to be, that there were calls for them to, because they were using funds and using resources and so forth, but not producing much. So even those things are also questionable. So the matter is that we've got a lot to renew in the society. Right. We have too much to do, and we need leadership, and the president must lead without fear or favor. Yeah,
we need to talk about the timeliness of all of this, right? 6 months for this commission to give us 2 interim reports. Are South Africans satisfied with that? But I want to bring in Reverend Matebula. You actually released a statement on the 12th where you titled it Commissioner Mkhwanazi's Standard Blueprint for Ending Public Sector Corruption. But later on you say, we reject the establishment of another commission of inquiry. Well, Reverend, here we are. What do you say to how the president is putting solutions together?
Yeah, no, Naledi, and to the viewers at home, this is very, very, very disappointing. Remember, everything rises and falls on leadership. If we don't have leaders in our country, people, they will always do whatever they think it is right on their own eyes. I mean, we totally reject the issues of commissions. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, probably for the past 10 years, we had run about 11 commissions. And the one that I can think of that really made some sense is the SARS one. But the rest have never been, giving us some results. I mean, I hear now that these gentlemen, which I don't have a problem with them, they are qualified, they are lawyers, and they've done that before. But what are the results? There's nothing productive in these commissions. As devoted citizens, we are very concerned in this country. Now, let us remind the nation.
Yep.
Every year, over 27,000 people are murdered in this country. 75 people every day die in this country. Now, if we're gonna have a Department of Police, our judiciary acting like this, what are we going to say to the criminals out there? Our leaders are not taking us seriously. It is very disappointing, especially for the president. We thought after they've gone down to 40%, they would learn from this, but it sounds like they are not learning. Let me bring another matter here.
Yep.
Just a few days ago, he fired the Minister of DA. Now, why this time, we don't apply the same principles? Who's fooling who here? I strongly believe we are taken for granted as citizens, and then our government does not take us seriously. We are very concerned. We cannot live like this, especially now when people who are supposed to enforce the law and they are compromising the very same law that they must enforce.
Reverend, thank you for that. Prof, do you want to respond to what we've heard from the Reverend? I mean, he makes an interesting point. Just recently, the president very decisive about removing a DA deputy minister, Whitfield. Could he have been as decisive? And then as you respond to, your take on the president's address last night, I'm keen to hear the sort of nuts and bolts here. Are we essentially at this point, which is quite clear, paying two police ministers? From a governance point of view, do you see red flags there?
Yeah, so first of all, the problem or the issues that we're facing at this point are existential in nature. And I think that this is where there is disappointment in the intervention, but it also shows the risk that we face. When I say that they're existential in nature, we're faced with a situation where organized criminals are able to essentially become immune to prosecution and to be able to unveil themselves in the ANC, and I'm being very clear, it is the ANC, and that's potentially part of the reason why we see so few prosecutions at the end of the day. We don't see the people at the top go down. The MK party is the party of the Zondo Commission. They're not sitting in jail, whereas they should. And so we don't see that our justice system, our whole security system, is actually operating in the manner that we expect from it. And these are crimes and criminals that have systemic impacts on the rest of society in South Africa. So they are priority crimes. And those are the very parts of our system that are targeted and essentially sanitized and made incapable of moving. So what we have to look at from the president is we'd have to look at a response which is equal to the threat to South Africa that we're facing. So a commission of inquiry, yes, that allows us to unpack what's going on with some actual evidence. But I also note that Parliament has pulled back from allowing Parliament to hold proper inquiries into this. We shouldn't be limited to one or two interventions. And then on the issue of two ministers, quite clearly the current minister is not fit for purpose. The country has lost faith in him, and he can't carry on in that position. And you can't make a political decision to keep a person in that role that is so important when we're facing the systemic risk, where he lied to Parliament and he hasn't actually indicated that he didn't. He can't continue in that position. And when we look at criminals like Vusi Nhlanhla, we can't look at a person like that and say that we must allow this person to actually have any influence over what happens in the police, in the NPA, in any structure of our justice system. And yet we seem to be treating this person and these people with kid gloves. So one of the reasons why we don't see Zondo commissions moving forward is potentially because of the penetration of our police services and our prosecution services by criminals. And the question is, what's wrong with our governance framework and what's wrong with the individuals that are currently in it? And I think this is where I think a key issue is going to have to come forward if we do have the Commission of Inquiry.
Yeah.
We are facing a problem which is structural in nature, in that our systems are capturable. And we have to look at changes to to the way in which police commissioners are appointed and the powers of ministers, the powers of the president, and the separation of powers to allow our investigative structures to proceed without any interference. And we've seen this interference from the Scorpions right to now. It has been targeted politically by people who have basically got to senior positions within the ANC.
Yeah.
And that allows them to capture these state structures. Until that ends, we will just see people basically replaced with other bad apples as we go through. We won't see a change in the system.
So you say it's replaced with other bad apples, and I do want to, those again, Prof's words and not my own, but when we come back from the break, perhaps we'll take a closer look at understanding. Feroz Kachalia, what does he bring to the table at such a sensitive time within the policing sector? We get into that on the other side of this. Stay with us. Welcome back. So, a judicial commission of inquiry is set to take place to look into allegations made by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and, of course, the Police Minister Senzo Mchunu now on special leave, and the entry of Feroz Kachalia as the acting police commissioner. Just some of the key points that came out of that address by the president last night. We continue to get reaction from them, on them rather. Emmanuel is calling from Polokwane. Emmanuel, good evening. Thank you so much for calling. Emmanuel, are you there? Emmanuel in Polokwane, are you there? Okay, he's not there. We're having some trouble with that line. Let's take a look at a few WhatsApps, though, that have come in. The number 0721105584. James says, just another way of dodging bullets from our president to make the nation forget, like the other previous commissions, wasting taxpayer money without charging anyone. Cases like this are thrown under the carpet within that 3 months period. James, thank you so much for sending in that. And Ndate says, Ndate Sidumedi says, good evening, Naledi. The president did not respond to anything. All he did was to delegate thinking capacity to professionals to decide now which renewal path is the ANC on. It took him 4 days in South Africa, including the amount of time it took him from Brazil to make a 12-minute speech. Pathetic thinking. Inquiry is not needed. He can't make a decision. He's captured himself. Thank you so much for sending it that one. Donald Lekodi says, good evening. We will patiently wait for the outcomes of the inquiry. Okay, Donald, thank you. Molifi says commissions were established before, millions spent. Report given to him coupled with recommendations. To date, no one is accountable. President doesn't take us serious. All right, let's try again with Emmanuel. Emmanuel in Polokwane, thanks for calling. Good evening.
Good evening, Naledi. How are you?
I'm well, sir. Thank you for calling. Talk to us. Your thoughts?
Naledi, I'm hearing everything else that ordinary South Africans and analysts are saying in reaction to what the president announced yesterday. But the one thing that I'm failing to get, which maybe we can even ask your panelists,
sure,
is how they think the president should have acted within the context of separation of powers when there are allegations made against the minister, parliamentarians, the judiciary, the prosecutors, the police. Because it seems like everybody else seems to be focusing on whether minister is released from cabinet or taken on special leave. But the extent to which this decision will be able to help all these other arms of state to deal with allegations leveled against people who are sitting in those positions.
Yeah.
I'm not getting that from any of the analysts.
Okay, Emmanuel. Yeah. I think you've made a strong point. Yes, go ahead briefly if you can wrap it up. Yeah.
The best that any president anywhere in the world could have done to deal with challenges in prosecution in the judiciary and in the legislature, including the executive, is to appoint a commission of inquiry that will get to the root of the allegations by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi.
Okay, yeah. Now, thank you for calling, Emmanuel, and I think you've made an important point. Let's not forget, and perhaps Prof. van den Heever can help us with this a little bit later on in the discussion, that you have various processes that are playing out at the same time, right? So you've got 3 portfolio committees in Parliament that are meant to report back to the National Assembly on what they do with the allegations made by Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Also, at the same time, the Office of the Chief Justice having written to Commissioner Mkhwanazi to say, bring us the proof of involvement of the judiciary in these criminal syndicates. And perhaps the question is, can they all play out at the same time? But I want to get back to other issues just quickly. I had a conversation with Mr. Mavuso Msimang earlier, veteran ANC leader, who admits that the Integrity Commission of the ANC is problematic. That there have been recommendations that were made by the Zondo Commission, 1 billion rand spent, commitments that were made by the ANC to say, well, those leaders that were named in the recommendations and in the report will face the Integrity Commission. And he admits that it has not been sufficient, that the Integrity Commission in and of itself has not faced up to the recommendations of a commission of inquiry. So when we say Senzo Mchunu faces an Integrity Commission, what's going to be the outcome of that?
Yeah, firstly, I want to thank Emmanuel, because Emmanuel, I agree with him. What he is raising is completely correct. Other than a commission of inquiry, what could President Ramaphosa do? And he had to do it because you have to test those allegations. The matter, should they be an acting minister while a minister is on special leave and so forth, those are matters I think that should be clarified very quickly. But I would add that where, and not just the president, which I was saying, that the president now doesn't have the hamstringing of needing another term, etc., and could act without fear or favor. The expectation, not just on the Integrity Commission, but on the ANC itself, was without fear or favor, let's do renewal. Let's get back to the basics and the values of the ANC, of the proud liberation movement, etc. What we are seeing with regard to the Integrity Commission is not just the Integrity Commission. The ANC itself has not grasped renewal. And this is why you'll be basically individuals, normal people would say, another commission of inquiry. What's going to happen to it? Because the Zondo Commission, through the Zondo Commission, there's been like 271 individuals charged, etc., and so forth. But it's not enough because we're not seeing the change in society and the change in the ANC on how they operate. It could be a minister being arrogant with and not releasing who their panel is and so forth. You're seeing all the same mistakes in many, many ways. And people want to see leaders who they can relate to and aspire to be like. Not materially, but at least on morality and integrity. And where the Integrity Commission, but not just them, where the ANC leadership from the Secretary General and so forth must be saying, what is stopping them from renewing the ANC? Because they don't have a legal court to do that. But yes, we do have, and this is true, they couldn't even expel their former president, who was a member and leading another political party, and so forth. So many things need to professionalize in the ANC so that renewal becomes something that they can hold their accountability. But you need to see that renewal in the ANC so as to make it, with inverted commas, fashionable. You do not see the fashionability of renewal. Okay,
let's bring in Prof. van den Heever here, because Emmanuel talking about separation of powers, just how much control the president actually has. And I mentioned the other processes that are taking place, the 3 portfolio committees, and then the call from the Office of the Chief Justice to Mkhwanazi, bring us evidence. Any sort of concerns that you have around these, I suppose, concurrent processes that are all taking place?
So I think a commission of inquiry was inevitable and is actually one of the correct interventions. There's no other solution there. It's the only way to deal with the multifaceted set of issues that were presented. The only issue is the commission itself truly independent and able to pursue the issues and have their recommendations taken forward. A commission of inquiry is a creature of the executive of government, which means the government also has a discretion to completely ignore it. It's not a body that actually has teeth. It can't actually prosecute anybody. That's one of the reasons why now, if the president wants to be taken seriously, him as leader of the executive is going to have to take its recommendations and implement them expeditiously, not merely receive a report and wander off into the sunset. In the case of the minister, the problem with that situation is that you have, I think that the Feroz Kachalia, is a colleague at Wits, I would certainly trust him and his integrity. I think that he's a good proposal to be a minister of the police at this point in time. But he should be given full powers of a minister. And what's happened is it's sort of neither here nor there. It's kind of, you don't suspend ministers. They're not people who go on leave. Ministers are ministers with powers. And basically the minister that was sitting there needs to be removed in order to ensure that there is no possibility of current or future interference in any processes operating within the police force. So when you put in a new person in charge who is independent and clean of any accusations, they must now be given those powers without the possibility that they could be removed in 2 months. And then the old minister comes back. That's just not on. So the president should be decisive, remove the minister, put another minister in place, restore trust in that, at least that appointment, and then protect this minister so that he's able to carry through his functions and bring this department to order, which might include having to make recommendations on the removal of people as well within the police force. I think that Parliament also needs to proceed. There's a separation of power there. The president doesn't tell Parliament what to do. Parliament mustn't hold back. It must also get involved in these issues. And if we have other Chapter 9 institutions getting involved, they should also pursue investigations and should not be held back. It's important to note that the people that are accused here and are currently, before the courts, are also people who are very much part of the Tembisa scandal and corruption, in which the head of supply chain management in the Gauteng Department of Health was assassinated, just like there is the assassinations all over the place. Yeah. So these are all issues that need to be addressed. But I do believe, and this is just sort of a final point on the Commission of Inquiry where it could be extremely important, is I think it has to proceed to make structural recommendations on how government is restructured, and so that we do not have a recapturable set of top structures in government. And it's important to note that the ones with power and the power to investigate and prosecute are targets. Yeah. And so they have to be bulletproof from any kind of escape. People are going to run at them with bags of money, etc., etc. You have to have a way of protecting our top structures.
Sure. And the Reverend Mathebula, that's what I want to bring to you then, because Prof there says, you could certainly have a Feroz Kachalia there as the acting police minister, but just how much power does he actually have? Considering how high the stakes are, we're talking about allegations of a political killings task team that was allegedly disbanded. I mean, that's a big problem in our country and has been, even as according to the findings of the Mkhwanazi Commission that we remember from some years ago. So was this the person to clean up?
Listen, Naledi, once again, some of us, we are right in the roots of the community. We are working with the community. We are there, we are burying people almost every day, every weekend. This thing is affecting us. Sometimes you can just bring these commissions and say, let's do that. But we are living with these things every day. We see people dying before us. The gentleman now just spoke about Tembisa, that issue that happened in Tembisa of a whistleblower. I mean, I'm from Tembisa. We're still waiting now. We're still waiting for that commission to come up with some results, what happened. Up to this moment, there's no one who has been taken into prison. People are struggling there. The hospital is not functioning. Maybe the other issue that I still have to bring here, the question that I need to ask, who asked the president, or who took the decision that the minister must go on leave? Is it the minister or the president? Because even the Sunday Time, it's like the minister himself, he asked the president what to do the decision that he must take about his issue. Once again, the president, he is not really leading, thinking about our people in this country. They are out there, they are safe, everything is okay, they've got the best security and all those other things. But I don't even want to get into those debates of the judiciary, how to deal with this thing. I'm standing here tonight. I'm representing the community, people who are struggling, people are being murdered. The drugs in our communities is a serious matter. Kidnapping, children are being kidnapped every day. Women are being raped. And here we are, you're going to talk about a commission that might still take around about 6 months? Come on, guys.
Yeah.
Take us seriously as citizens. We don't deserve this that we are getting in our leadership. For how long? How long, Naledi, our people are going to struggle and suffer? And the best thing, you just make them to be quiet about the commission. And then another $1 billion was spent on Zondo commission. How many people have been taken to prison? Yeah. Not even a single person. Because we are not taken seriously as citizens. Yeah. So we can sit here and debate, but I'm representing the community and the citizens of this country who are really struggling.
Reverend Chris Matebula, they're still with us on the other side of this short break, but clearly sharing the sentiments of so many South Africans, as we saw in some of the WhatsApps from our viewers as well. On the other side, we'll perhaps give our own recommendations on the other side of this. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, we wrap up, of course, our reflections on the address by the president last night, and it would have wrapped up just around this time, in fact, 24 hours ago, when the president offered his plan moving forward to deal with the allegations made by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi of political interference within the SAPS and even attempts to stop the work of a political killings task team. Let's get into some of the recommendations now from our panel as we close things off. For Prof. Fundin here, I think, let's take a look at a few WhatsApps, in fact, before we do that. Some WhatsApps have come in from our viewers. Let's bring those up on the screen and we'll take a look at that. Prince Mpero says, I thought the president's decision was a vital one, also allowed the committee to do their task without fear or favor, thanks to have a silent president like him who took decisions without fear or favor. Okay, Prince, some confidence in the president there. Anonymous says, I think DA, EFF, etc. should organize transport from 9 provinces to union buildings to hand over a memorandum to the president to step down. All right, Anonymous, thank you for that. Geb says, much appreciation to Mkhwanazi, but as expected, no serious action has been taken by the president. The minister still enjoy life just like the president. With all CR17 and Phala Phala cloud hanging over his head, we need our stolen land back now. Okay, quite a few issues there. Prof, final thoughts, recommendations on the end of our, suppose, what we'd call our commission of inquiry here. But I just want to get your ideas on, if you were in the shoes of Feroz Kachalia, what is it that you start off by doing in that position?
Well, I'd immediately start looking at the specialized task forces that are in existence and ensure that they are fit for purpose. I think that to the extent that there are problematic commissioners, it's not really up to the minister to remove them, but processes can be set in motion to deal with that problem. But I think it's immediate to deal with the systemic crime that we've got at the moment and the corruption that goes right up to the top. We have to have protected investigations, and that has to be his key role at this point in time. I also do think that he needs to make public what he's finding and his decisions on a regular basis, and I don't think that he should be quiet about it. I think that the fact that, just quite simply, the fact that you have nothing coming from the Zondo Commission and a laughable integrity commission in the ANC, it shows how high the corruption goes. The more that happens, the more it's screaming at you the extent to which our systems have been compromised. We now have to rebuild those systems and protect the processes of rebuilding them. And I think that has to be the priority now. And I hope that Professor Kachalia will be focusing on building systems and structures and investigative structures and specialized task forces to move us forward. We need prosecutions, and they need to go as high as they need to go. Yeah. Nobody should be safe from these investigations.
Okay. Recommendations for Acting Minister Kachalia, Reverend?
Yeah, well, my take will be, guys, we can't wait for another 6 months. I think what he needs to do is to make sure that he speed up the process, and then the citizens are waiting. We are waiting in fear, hopeless, because we don't know what's going to happen. Are we going into the same route, the way it was before? We are not prepared as citizens. And finally, on my side, I want to speak to the citizens of South Africa to say we cannot relax and be quiet and take a back seat, forever. We need to stand up and really, really condemn these things from our government. Enough is enough, guys. This is too much. And corruption is really destroying our nation. But we're going to wait and see what the commission will do. As for me, 6 months, I don't have 6 months to wait while we have problems in this nation that are destroying this country.
Reverend Mathebula, Donovan, your final thoughts. There's the issue of, Prof, they're talking about the Integrity Commission, and he talks about how deeply set I'm going to use rot really is. Your thoughts on that as we reflect on what to do next?
I think we have to reflect a lot as South Africans. Yes, of course, the problems of the ANC are so transparent. It's well known. But the justice system, the institutions of justice must bother us. Because it's not just the ANC or where the ANC governs. In the Western Cape, you do not have an ANC of any significant note. And you do have issues with the police, with the gang killings, with the collusion between police and politicians, even in terms of property and construction and estates and so forth. So we need to begin to see, and this is why this is important, that the systemic issues, what Prof was raising, must be dealt with. And the good thing about part of the job of the Commission is to look at why was oversight mechanism so ineffective? Because that's all we have. You don't want interference, you don't want politicians to be police, but you have oversight, and you have oversight on those politicians. And this is the problem this is why we have a lack of accountability. We do not have effective oversight bodies, be it parliament, be it the executive, ministers, mayors, etc. And why, as a society, do we allow that? Is we benefit from it? So this commission itself, with a new acting minister for however how long, must use that aspect of effective mechanisms of oversight, look at what he's giving up, so that there are the systemic recommendations which must be transparent. And I think transparency is key here. You have too much of crime. You have organized water, syndicates, trucking syndicates. There's so many crime syndicates on every little matter. We have organized crime, and that must bother us. And that only happens when you have systemic failure. And that's the systemic failure we're going through. So we can say it's the ANC, we can say it's but the bottom line is there is the systemic failure. We have to deal with it. When do we
start using the words mafia state?
Exactly. You can use mafia state, you can use clientele state, and that is us. And this is what I've been like a stuck record on this. I've said that who benefits from this? It's not just these leaders. We all tend to gravitate towards it. And the truth of the matter is, in our system, and globally as well, you only deal with those on corruption who fall out of power. You never get prosecution by the ANC or anybody else who's not in the leading faction in them, or even in other parts of our country. It can happen in the United States. Only when you fall out of favor, then Elon Musk must be deported. And it suddenly happens. Only when you fall out of power, then only. And we've got to ask ourselves, it was a doctor and the correctional services that decided Shabir Shaik needed parole. So you have these institutions. It's not from now. You have these institutions, from apartheid times for that matter, polluted, operating on personal levels, operating on advancement. There's no professionalism in that way. So stop looking for heroes and look to what are these systemic failures, and we as South Africans have to live up to it and deal with it.
Yeah. Not an easy position then that Prof. Feroz Kachali is in, with all of those systemic issues that you talk about, but we're going to leave it there. Gentlemen, an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for all your contributions. Reverend Chris Mathebula of Hope Restoration Ministries, and also the founder of Devotion Citizen Movement, to Professor Alex van den Heever of the Wits School of Governance, and Donovan Williams, social commentator, in the studio with us. We take a short break. We've got your headlines, though, at the top of the hour. Stay with us.